Good morning, everybody. May 8th, 2025. And it's 8:30 in the morning. And yes, yesterday I went to Borisov and I made a few mistakes. One of them was just me getting fouled up in my words, and the other one was I just had gotten some bad information. But I mentioned in that video, I'll clear this up before I start getting into some of the news. But the first one of the Oh, kitty, what you got there? Some of the first news was that I said that commander of that tank, that was that they risked didn't risk, sacrificed their lives to save, you know, their comrades in the Soviet military at that time, on that bridge, or right near where that tank was at, is where the standoff was held. And I guess the commander was a lieutenant, just like in the United States. You get a tank commander as a lieutenant. The other two were sergeants that were in there, so it's a crew of three, and all three of them got the Hero of Russia award. And normally it doesn't really go to enlisted, apparently. So it's normally the big shots, so guys in charge or something, they get the Hero of Russia. And maybe the people like in any military, like in the United States, normally the lower enlisted and people like that don't really get that much credit because they're just doing what they're told to do and sacrificing their lives or something like that. I don't know. But actually they're a lot more sympathetic here in this part of the world to such people than, of course, they are in the United States. When you retire and all that, you actually get good benefits and things like that, such as in Germany or Russia or Belarus and things like that. And normally in the United States, they try not to give you any benefits and kick you in the backside and tell you to get lost or something. So anyway, and what was the other one? Oh, I said I misheard that one cathedral in Borisov, I think it's called not Cathedral of the Erection, Cathedral of the Resurrection. And so that was not the oldest cathedral. I don't know, maybe it's one of them, but I think there's like 3 cathedrals older. I might have even been to one of them in Belarus. Keep wanting to say Germany or something like that, but anyhow. Okay, let's go getting back into the news here. And I'll tell you about that. Yeah, I did that video and I had to recharge my phone like almost entirely just to upload that into YouTube. And starting to upload, or actually I uploaded it first into my phone. You consolidate the various clips as you're supposed to do, otherwise it's not going to be that good of a video in that case. Showing little parts of it for 1 minute or something. So anyway, I did that, and then I recharged it almost completely to try to upload it onto YouTube, and it took more than an entire charge of YouTube just to upload it onto YouTube. So it stopped, and my phone was dead during the middle of the night. So this morning I had to get up and recharge it again just to upload the rest of the video onto YouTube. I don't really understand why it's just getting worse and worse and worse, and it's sucking huge amounts of energy just to upload onto YouTube. I just don't understand it. I really don't. But that's how that is. I was even playing around with my settings a little bit on my phone. I don't know. And it might also be, I heard there's some sort of a disagreement with Google and Russia. And like something, I think what Google was refusing to renovate or upgrade their infrastructure or whatever the deal is in Russia. And it might be something to do with that. And so that's why it's just sucking so much energy. Can't even friggin' get across the road. There's no cars anywhere except for right here where I want to cross the road on the entire street. This guy, I don't know what this guy's doing here. Okay. Anyway, I want to just get places where there's either less people and less cars. Kitty! I guess it's the cat hour. Okay, so anyway, shocking, unreported news. And they're seeing a lot of the evidence of what is going on. A lot of things, maybe the rest of you aren't going to hear about this, but as you know, there's the May 9th parade, and it's tomorrow because today's the 8th. And it's a big day because it's the 80th anniversary, and it is obvious there's way too many indications. The West really hates this because apparently, and this is the honest to God truth, they are looking at the Nazis as being on their side against the Russians, even though that wasn't at all the case. Not at all during World War II. It's just something that has developed over time. And as I was saying, and there's quotes, and there's Churchill made a number of quotes saying that it was Russia that defeated the Nazis. He said it a number of times. And apparently Donald Trump looks at Churchill as a big hero. And of course, President Roosevelt also admitted that it was Russia that defeated the Nazis more than anybody else. They say that 85% of the power that it took to defeat the Nazis was Russia that did that, and the United States and Great Britain and France did very little to do that. It was mostly Russia that did it. And now Donald Trump, I guess this is the third time that he's out there prancing around and saying that it was the United States that did it all, that we're the ones that defeated it. And he said everybody knows that, even though Churchill is probably a hero of his. So I don't know if Donald Trump is really just ignorant, stupid, or he just wants to be a braggart and take the credit of everything, just like ISIS, when it was Russia and the Syrian army that defeated Russia beyond any shadow of a doubt. And it was, in fact, the United States was on the side of ISIS. And that was a big secret. And so many people, and it's like, oh, you don't talk about that in America, that actually America, that ISIS was a proxy army of the United States. And if you ever heard of the United States ever bombing any kind of ISIS or whatever, it wasn't ISIS. There were some other competing forces, Islamic forces in Syria at the time. And maybe the United States was bombing them. I don't really know what the United States was doing, to be honest with you, in Syria, to the honest truth. And they accidentally bombed the Syrian army quite a few times. And it's a very well-known fact that the higher commanders of ISIS, when they were wounded in battle, they got their medical treatment in Israel. So, and I've talked about this a lot of times, and a lot of people have, but this is a dirty truth that you're not really allowed to talk about. It's just like that Israel killed most of those Israelis on October 7th, 2023. And a lot of the Israelis, they come out, and of course there's stiff penalties, financial or otherwise, for Israelis that come out and say that it was Israelis killing Israelis on October 20 or October 7th. And of course, maybe that's one reason why I have such huge trouble of uploading my videos talking about this sort of thing. Max Blumenthal, of course, he has gone after as well. He's the one that reported all that stuff about Israel. But I don't know, it's like the truth. What did they say? The first casualty of any war is the truth. And jeez. And there's people, that are truth activists, and there's a lot of times truths that they will not talk about because, you get deleted. If you talk, I think it was even Jeffrey Sachs that also recently came out and was talking some things about COVID. And of course, that's heavily protected by Google as well. And you start telling the truth, and they really go after you about that. And I might get deleted just for saying that on this video. You cannot talk the truth. Boy, oh boy. Anyway, you guys know what I'm getting at, so I'm sidetracking myself anyway. But the big shocking news that I was talking about that has been actually coming out, and maybe it's not really even, it will be emphasized in Russia, but it hasn't yet. I put out a lot of things, and I've noticed that a lot of other people, they talk about it like a day or 2 days later. And I don't know if a lot of you have noticed that yet. A lot of time, those of you getting news in the West, you're not getting any of this news. You don't even get it 2 days late because you don't get any of it. That's very strange. That's how that's working. In the freedom of the press in the West. But what I keep delaying telling you what I wanted to say, but it was actually what happened yesterday was the largest amount of drone attacks ever in history, as a matter of fact, in history, because drone warfare is actually very new. And even Elon Musk, a lot of people say, you know, that is the new form of warfare, is mostly drone warfare. And the biggest recipient of drones on the planet is Ukraine right now. They're flooding the amounts of drones going into Ukraine, but they launched the largest amount of drone attacks ever yesterday against Russia. There were over 524 drone attacks within 24 hours, and they had 5 Neptune missiles that they launched, 6 JDAM bombs, I think those are from the United States, to believe it or not, and 2 HIMAR attacks, which is just 2, you know. I think maybe Russia's knocking out a lot of the HIMARS, and of course, United States is sending more HIMARS. Donald Trump, who wants to stop the war, he wants to stop the killing, so he's sending bombs. I titled that video yesterday, you know, Donald Trump is fooling us. And it's like, yeah, he wants to stop the war, but yet he's continuing sending the bombs and the weapons to Ukraine. And a lot of time, it's Russia has not come out and said this, but I tell you what, makes you really wonder if Russia, maybe they're not doing this because they want to try to further the peace process between the United States and Russia. And did I say the United States? I didn't say Ukraine. That's not even, I'm not even misspeaking, because it's the United States that is waging war against Russia. It's not really, you know, Ukraine is just a proxy. And the United States has admitted that. How many officials in the United States have admitted this is a proxy war? This is the U.S. using Ukraine as a proxy to go against war against Russia. But Russia doesn't even really want to come right out and say that. But these are American soldiers firing off a lot of these bombs. It's the fingers of the United States. Look at these hands. The fingers of the United States soldiers in Ukraine. And yes, there certainly are still. They're firing off these missiles. Douglas McGregor, I believe, has said this. Probably Scott Ritter has said this. I'm trying not to say this. I was thinking, oh, the United States may not have soldiers there anymore, but apparently they certainly do. And they're the ones that are giving all the information to fire off these missiles into Russia and killing Russian civilians. And even Russia it's amazing. It's like, wow. You don't want to say the truth, because then, I don't know. It's just like Donald Trump saying yesterday, oh, they made an agreement with the Houthis, that it's like that they won't be firing on these ships anymore. And maybe it's some kind of trolling. I don't know if he made any agreement with the Houthis. I don't think they even talked to the Houthis, to be honest with you. And somebody said that even like 1 or 2 hours after Donald Trump said this, no, wait. It was like within, I think it was even after Trump announced it, that they fired on some U.S. ships. So maybe he's trying to do this by trolling, you know, getting peace by trolling. It'll be a new type of tactic, you know, troll and say stuff that isn't true. And maybe what it is that the U.S. has realized that they cannot beat the Houthis, you know, by just bombing them to smithereens, and the Houthis just don't give up. So Donald Trump has just declared a victory and walked away and said, yes, I got them to declare. I don't know. Ron Paul, I remember when he was running for president, he admitted that. Just declare peace and walk away. He said declare victory and walk away. So maybe that's what Trump is doing. He said, you know, we can't win, so just declare victory and walk away. Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. So I mentioned these drone attacks. And I guess by now, the ceasefire has already, that Russia was calling for, this 3-day ceasefire, it's supposedly gone into effect. I doubt very much that Ukraine is going to be following this. So Ukraine also launched another major attack, trying to get, again, a big foothold into the Kursk region. I don't know if they've already defeated some of these people that are hiding in the basements. It's very few. Very few Ukrainian soldiers are holed up in basements, or I don't know if they still are. And if they are they getting food? And it's very possible that they are, because when I was walking in Borisov, I was told yesterday, they were showing houses very similar to these houses here that you're looking at, apartment buildings or whatever. and apparently they were running, the Russians were running like hospitals in various rooms in various parts of these things for Soviet soldiers, doctors operating in there in secret, and right on the main streets that the Germans were occupying the town of Borisov at that time. And I showed you there was one photo in there inside of one of the museums. One of the museums, by the way, that I walked into in Borisov, it was, or is not very well known. So it's like we just came across that walking down the street and said, oh, another museum. And I don't think it's even mentioned on TripAdvisor or anything. That was a second museum that I went into in that film and showing you some of those things. And within that museum, there was a photograph, and it showed a big area. I don't know if it was quite as big as the area you're looking at right now, but it was just a whole bunch of dead bodies of Belarusians that were killed by the Nazis in the occupation, and a lot of mass murders. I've seen photos of piles of bodies like 10 feet tall of just a whole bunch of dead bodies of Belarusians that the Germans and the Ukrainians, Lithuanians, and all of their people. I don't know if Finland actually, if they took part in the mass killings as well at that time. War, dirty business. And of course, when you're like the United States tries to do that, I remember when I was in the military, and they dehumanize the enemy, calling them gooks or spics or anything like that, niggas, I don't know, any kind of bad things, so that you'll feel, much better about going out and massacring people. Terrible stuff about humans, what we're doing, dehumanizing people. I don't know if the Russians had bad names for, I would imagine they did. I just haven't heard about it, so that it makes it easier to kill people. I don't think Russians, they had a lot more morality. I'm not saying they were perfectly moral, but apparently it's a much different culture, and I guess it makes them an easy target for when some of our nations in the West come over here to massacre Russians, and which they've been trying to do for centuries. So anyhow, I should actually add to that, like Donald Trump keep on insisting it was America that did that. It's a terrible, terrible insult, especially once you've been over here and you've seen the culture. And I mean, in all of these years, that I'm not even just at the time of the parades, that, the huge price and the huge amounts of people that died in World War II getting massacred by the Nazis and all that, and then the United States or Donald Trump coming out and saying, we're the ones that did it. We're the ones that defeated the Nazis. When there's virtually no evidence. There's no evidence to that. America certainly helped, and they helped with the Lend-Lease program. Russia has said that they still would have won the war even without the Lend-Lease program, but which is probably true. I don't know. I wasn't there. Donald Trump wasn't there, and Donald Trump is the victim of our propaganda that I was even brought up with, and the rest of you were too. That are Americans. That we were told we're the ones, we're the great heroes. We save everybody. Our generosity and our kindness. And then I was looking up. I tell you what, you start looking up some research and things like that, and then I started looking up like Bandera, and that the United States was doing everything even after the war to hide Bandera. Bandera was still running operations after the war, practically all the way up to his death in 1959, when a KGB was able to assassinate him. The United States was protecting him and moving him around and giving him different names, and they called it Operation Anyface. I guess that's a character in the Dick Tracy cartoons, the cartoon comics or something of those days. And it was some guy, maybe a villain of Dick Tracy, called Anyface, and he could change his face all the time. So the United States was hiding Bandera because he was so valuable to the United States to do sabotage operations and assassinating people of the Soviet Union after World War II, something that nobody ever talked about. And maybe it was even possible, I don't know, I think maybe when there was this spy called Kaltenberg, I believe, that the Soviet Union had, and of course he was imprisoned, I guess, at the time. I don't know, he died at some point in negotiations, and the United States wanted this spy, and I think originally the Soviet Union, they were on board with trying to trade him, and they were trying to trade for Bandera for a long time. as the United States, hiding him all over the place within Germany. He lived originally, I guess, in Berlin after the war, and then he went to Munich and was, transferring his residences all over the place there, and he was still trying to create a Nazi government in Ukraine even after the war, up until his death, I guess, by the way. And he's not really even Ukrainian. He never was a citizen of Ukraine. He was from this area, which is called Galicia. And of course, he was trying to create a country called Ukraine. There was no country called Ukraine at that time, but they were trying to establish one from Lviv at the time, and where he was even massacring people then. That was even, I think, maybe before he started massacring lots of Polish people. And I guess, technically speaking, he was Polish. He was Polish himself, but he was trying to create a Ukraine. And I guess at that time, Galicia was part of the Austria-Hungary Empire, even back then. There's a lot of this border switching and all that sort of thing. And even at one time, I guess Latvia belonged to Belarus, but Belarus has never said, oh, we're going to go over and take it back. And you see a lot of these Western countries say, if at any one time, even for a couple of years, any sort of territory from any other real country and nationality, people speaking different languages that ever belonged to them, they want to take it back. It's ours. Zelensky, of course, is a perfect example of that. But even then, he wants to take huge portions of Russia. He's actually made it clear that he does. But we're not supposed to know that sort of thing. And he wants all of the Krasnodar region. I don't know if it goes as far as Tuapse or maybe as far as Sochi. I don't know. And Rostov and in the Kursk region, Belgorod. That's one reason why they're attacking there. He said, we wanted to use it as leverage or something in negotiations with Russia. We have to deal from a position of strength. It's kind of like, we have to defeat and take over lots of parts of Russia to deal. No, that's not it. He wanted to actually do that, and he's hoping the United States goes in, and and it looks like Donald Trump, he might, I don't know, Donald Trump, I think he knows that it's suicide to go against Russia. He's said that even, but yet he's helping, and he always has been helping Ukraine. He's always been on the side of Ukraine. That's why I said that video yesterday, that Donald Trump has us fooled. So he comes out and he says stuff in public, and a lot of time he knows the truth. He knows what's going on. It's probably like he knows that Russia actually defeated the Soviet Union defeated the Nazis. But anyway, these are different stories. A lot of you may not agree with that. YouTube is not going to send my videos to anybody, apparently, because they don't like anybody talking about this and actually supplying information about that. And it's just like this stuff in the United States actually was backing. They were in support of ISIS. And Jeffrey Sachs mentioned that. Other people have mentioned that. I think it's even on Wikipedia, Operation Sycamore, when even Hillary Clinton was involved in that, taking the weapons from Libya and sending them to ISIS. But we are fighting ISIS. We defeated ISIS. Donald Trump, look at me with these great hands. I defeated ISIS by myself. I was over there. Donald Trump, like I said yesterday, the British would say he's full of himself, He thinks he's the greatest being that ever walked the planet of Earth. Look at these hands. You can go into the bathroom. When I'm done in the bathroom, it just doesn't stink in there. That's how I am. I don't know. Let me keep going here. So, I want to upload this video today. I don't know. I won't even tell you where I was going to go. I don't know if people may not want me to put it on. I won't talk about it at all. It's something that, like I said, I don't want. Anyway, I don't want to talk about it. So, and another thing I'm trying, maybe I can talk to some people today about maybe going to the Donbass area, and maybe even going, not to the front line, but somewhere close, maybe places where Ukraine is bombing. So let's anyway keep going here. Let's see. Yes. Well, anyway, Trump actually admitted he's sending more bombs there. Makes you wonder, how is he wants to save this money, wants to stop the wars, he wants to stop the killing, but I don't know. You guys all know what's going on. I've talked about it in many videos here. The peace president. Okay, also related to Israel, as far as that war is concerned, Pam Bondi came out. I saw this video. You guys can find this stuff, I can imagine. She was saying that some reporter asked her about the release of Epstein files. Remember when they had this this thing, and these people were holding up these 5 binders and saying, oh yes, it's all released, and these people are kind of like happy. These were all people that are Zionist people. They're connected to Israel and the Israeli lobby, and so they were all happy. They had these binders and all that, and it was like, well, gosh, it's when you think about this and you look at all this other stuff that has come out, and we should all know, these 5 binders, it's nothing. First, who they gave them to, pro-Israel people, pro-Zionists, and Epstein, of course, was part of the Mossad as well, and so was Ghislaine Maxwell, so was her. I mean, it's all of this stuff. Israel is heavily, heavily, heavily involved in all of this sort of thing, Mossad and all that. And these binders, and Pam Bondi is talking about tens of thousands of documents and film footage, and she said right on camera that there's a lot of video footage or whatever of Epstein, sex with children, having sex with children, and child porn, all this sort of thing, and of course, actually, if I was better at tech, I would take that and I would put it, I don't think I could put it on my videos. I don't think of her saying that, talking about basically, maybe I'll be taken down for this, but Israel is involved in child porn. I don't know if it's direct from the government or just Israeli officials, but it's an undeniable fact that they are. And there's a lot of things. I mean, you have rabbis that are having sex with children, but you're not allowed to talk about that. You're only allowed to talk about Catholic priests that were having sex with children. Terrible crap going on. And this Kash Patel, he was also out yesterday talking about against all this sort of stuff and to protect our children. I think he is probably very serious about this, but I don't know. There's a lot of influence and things like that. These people are not, I don't know. But the Democrats, I guess they are heavily, heavily involved in that. I don't know about this Pizzagate stuff. Maybe that stuff is fake. I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of things that were said about the Clintons, and even Bill Clinton going to that Epstein Island, Hillary Clinton being involved in all this stuff. I mean, you think about this. These are a bunch of sex perverts, a lot of these people in governments. That includes, like I said, you read that book, By Way of Deception, and the person, and that's one reason why, I don't know if Israel ever got a hold of him and killed this guy. Try to find that book, and he mentions in there about big sex orgies, that he had to go somewhere for something, and he witnessed all of this with high officials in the U.S. or in the Israeli government, and all that sort of a deal. Anyway, they were trying to kill him, and that's one reason why he escaped and he got away. And he was even talking in that book about how many times they were trying to assassinate Yasser Arafat, and I don't know what they were trying to pin on him. And then that's one reason why he escaped and got away. I think he was living in Canada at one time. Anyway, very weird. That all the stuff that I'm putting out. I mean, you guys can check this stuff out. I'm just telling you where to get it. And it's one reason why my videos will never ever be promoted by YouTube. I don't know if they're even, I don't even watch my own videos. I wonder if they take this stuff out. I doubt it, but anyway. Okay, Pam Bondi, I already talked about that. Epstein, sex with children, child porn. And Virginia Giuffre, I didn't mention her, how she committed suicide when she said she would never commit suicide. And a lot of that stuff. It's just like, I don't know, I mentioned before, also this Russian model that I guess somehow they got her to Epstein Island. Whatever the heck happened there, I really don't know. I don't think anything really came out. But she missed Russia so bad, so she jumped from her 9th floor apartment to kill herself. From the 9th floor and jumping out in Manhattan, in her, she missed Russia so badly. Very, very depressed, and so she killed Russia. She killed herself because she missed Russia. Yeah, I think that was in 2010 when that happened. Yes. Okay. Let's see. And all these people, and like I said, Mike Rivero was talking about that. Mike Rivero has that website, whatreallyhappened.com, and he's not a person that goes around begging for money. He wants to keep his site going, but you never hear him out begging for money or buy me a coffee, anything like that on his site, and he's actually a truth activist. He's the one that actually inspired me, Mike Rivera. WhatReallyHappened.com. If you guys ever, you can call in, I guess, on his show, and if you do, you can mention me, mention my site. And I sent him information in the past. I sent him one time information. There was some film footage, and it was on a Russian site, and it was, I think, back in 2014 when some reporter was going around, when there was a lot of stuff going around in Crimea, I guess, at that time. Maybe, I don't think it was in Donbass, but anyway, there's some Russian reporter went up to some guy in a military uniform and wanted to ask him what's going on. And the guy probably didn't understand a word she said, so he said, "Get that thing out of my face," in perfect American English. I sent that to Mike Rivera, and she was like in shock, the reporter, that you have American soldiers running around there at that time. So anyway, that's just so you guys know about that. And he put that on his site, so I don't know if he got any flack. But if you say anything to him, if you guys call in, tell him I was the one that sent him that at first. And he was shocked on that. Well, a lot of people sent a lot of things. There's a lot of stuff, about things that, I'm talking about right now. And then Mike Rivera, like I said, he's the one that, opened up my eyes. I guess one thing back, it was right after 9/11 when it was a investigative reporter. And the thing that got me the most, and why I started watching his site, is he was putting up on there, and there was the things about I can't even remember the guy's name, but it was an investigative reporter, and Homeland Security, broke into his house and beat him up, broke his arm, tasered him in front of his wife and child or children, and because he was saying the United States, there's some clues that it looks like the United States government might be involved in the 9/11 attacks. And for that's what they did to him, and they beat him up and they threatened him and all that. He was the first one, I guess. Christopher Bolin, that was the reporter's name, Christopher Bolin. And after that, a lot of other people, in the United Homeland Security, cat was out of the bag. All of these responders and firefighters and policemen and all that, talking about the bombs going off in the basement. Even though the airplane attacks were up above somewhere, why were bombs and things going off in the basement? And Building 7, there was no airplane that hit it. So what are all these bombs going off in the basement? And these are a bunch of witnesses talking about this and say, and people were dying in the basement from bombs going off in the basement. And I guess what happens in demolitions, what you do is you blow out the basement first. You blow everything out before you demolish the building, and then you do a controlled demolition so that the building falls in its footprint and doesn't damage other properties around it or something when it's in a city. So anyway, well, that's really strange that the same sort of thing was happening in Building 7 and even in the World Trade Center towers. Anyway, maybe you guys already know about that stuff. Maybe you forgot about it. So maybe I shouldn't be talking about it. Let's keep going here. Okay. Oh, and there was actually some drone attacks as some of these world leaders, I guess there's 29 world leaders going to the parade in Moscow on May 9th. And there's been drone attacks happening all over, and a lot of I guess civilians are stuck in the airport because they cannot I guess have so many drones and things and all these defenses going off to trying to protect whenever these world leaders are coming in. So I think a lot of the civilian flights are people are stuck at the airport, can't get out because of all these drone attacks from Ukraine. So it's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of things maybe not being reported, but anyway, Ukraine is doing lots and lots of attacks against Russia, drone attacks. And there's actually drone attacks, I guess, in Kazakhstan as well, because they're having a parade as well. I don't know about Minsk. I don't think so. I think we're going to have a parade here as well, and ours is going to be at 9 or 8:30 at night apparently. And I believe what is going to happen. And this is actually, I'll tell you what, something might really just happen very, very soon. I mean, right on May 9th. And Zelensky, of course, at first he was saying, he wants to do a lot of terrorist attacks against Russia. And it looks like apparently in lots of places there's terrorist attacks going on of any places that are having these May 9th parades. I was putting out in other videos that they really hate this, the West. The United States is not going to prevent Ukraine from doing this because they don't like this either. They don't like the fact that the Russians beat the Nazis. So, and they want, obviously they want a strategic, they don't even want just a strategic, they defeat of Russia. They want an economic collapse, a strategic defeat, and they want Russia to be destroyed. And that is, of course, what the West wants. And it makes you, I haven't really even figured out why that is so important. You know, and the only thing I can think of is they want these resources over here. That's the only thing. And Germany, of course, like I said, they don't want to pay for the gas, even though it was a very, very good price. I guess maybe they were counting on the fact that they would get the gas, and they would, you know, they would get the gas and maybe not pay anything at all. And just like the minerals, they wanted the lithium for the car batteries. And United States, it looks like, is trying to make some deal for that. That was during the Joe Biden times when they thought they were going to get it. And then they wanted the nuclear power from the Zaporozhye plant. That's why they closed down their nuclear plants in Germany. We're going to get our nuclear power from Ukraine, you know, just by helping them, you know, with our defeat of being anti-Russia, you know, of the Ukrainians being anti-Russia. The anti-Russia that we've been working on creating for all this time so we can be the masters of the universe. So... Anyway, like I said, you know, it's really weird. I don't get that many views. Nobody. I think you a bunch of old guys like me, and you know, a lot of kids. If I was sending this to kids, you know, they would maybe say this is some interesting opinions, and I'll just say that's opinions, and it would be sent out, and a lot of people would be putting it on their sites as well. Maybe, I don't know, but it's not happening, so no big deal. No big deal. Okay, there were 18 drone attacks on Moscow just yesterday evening alone. Vucic's already made it there, and Fico, I don't know if he was thinking that he was going to go through Estonia or whatever, but he, I guess, announced that that's not happening. He said he's going to make it there anyway, but he was still in Slovakia, so he's definitely going to have to go south. I would say, well, what the heck? Well, how do you think you're going to be going through anywhere in Scandinavia? There's absolutely no way. So I would have told him from the very get-go, you know, you're going to have to go through the south. You're going to go through Serbia and then whatever, I don't know, but that's not Bulgaria. Anyway, you're going to have to go either through Istanbul, and I think Vucic, he went through Azerbaijan. You can go through Azerbaijan. You never know about what's going to happen. The Armenian leader is there. Nobody knows. He's sort of like maybe like Erdogan. He doesn't know which side his bread is buttered on yet. So he's having, you know, they're against Azerbaijan and Armenia, you know, they're kind of at odds against each other for a large extent. Russia's trying to establish peace, and they should be able to establish peace. It should not be that difficult. I don't know, but Armenia, they don't know if they want to go on the side of the United States or on Russia. But anyway, he's in Russia. They're part of some that Sisto agreement, so maybe that has a little bit to do with it. Maybe they actually appreciate the fact that the Nazis were defeated by Russia. A lot of them don't in the West, obviously, and they're very, very, very angry. Of course, this is the anti-Christmas for the Western Europe and even the United States, and Trump isn't necessarily showing it, but it's very obvious by him coming out and bragging, look at these hands, you know, saying that the United States did it. So I don't know, it's really turned into something that they've adopted Nazism, but they just don't call it Nazism. It's very strange. Same sort of thing that's going on in Israel. That's Nazism, but just by a different name, different face. So, you know. Okay, Ursula von der Leyen, she said that they have to really, really, really escalate, really fast track getting Ukraine into the European Union. They really have to escalate that. Viktor Orban, of course, I said in other videos, he's definitely against this. He does not want that. He said the European Union will go bankrupt if we get Ukraine in there, and that is an absolute undeniable fact. That is a fact. The European Union, and that's maybe why Putin says, well, he doesn't have anything against Ukraine going into the European Union. But I'll tell you what, it's another trick. It's another trick. What's going to happen is, you remember there's talk about the European army. Oh, we have to get a European army. You know, and I'm always sitting there thinking, well, I thought there was one. It was called NATO, you know, with the United States over there, you know. And now you have Donald Trump in there. And I'll tell you, I think it's very possible. This is the master plan. The master plan. Ukraine, or the United States. Ukraine, United States, they're kind of similar. But the United States and Donald Trump, you know, sometimes he's talked about, he's shy about even being in NATO at all. and the Europeans are saying, oh, we have to create a European army. So I'll tell you what's going to happen. When they're looking at Putin, and Putin is saying he's not against Ukraine going into the European Union. So, you know, if they can fast track Ukraine going into the European Union, and then they're going to say, well, yeah, NATO is obsolete. We're going to disband that. Instead, we're going to have a European military. And oh, guess what? Ukraine is already in the EU, so we're going to have an EU military, you know, and we're going to have a big alliance with the United States. In other words, it's going to be NATO. It's probably going to be run from Brussels. It's probably all the same people. They're just not going to call it NATO. And magic, just absolute magic, Ukraine is in NATO. So their dreams are fulfilled. And then they're going to keep the same thing, Article 5, all that sort of a deal. But I'll tell you what, they had Merz. He was on television, and since he's now chancellor, since a few days ago, and a reporter said, are you going to still send the Taurus missiles to Ukraine? And he said, Ukraine can count on me. So in other words, and Russia has warned against Germany sending these Taurus missiles, but I doubt very, very much, not because of Article 5 necessarily. I don't think Russia wants to escalate this war, but it really makes you wonder, well, what is Russia going to do? Because it looks like, you know, and Merz, he wants to get involved more into the war. He wants to send even more money and things like that into the war. It's really interesting stuff. Really interesting stuff. And I mentioned, of course, yesterday in my earlier video, Merz is a big puppet of BlackRock, and he's the one that got Germany really, really heavy into BlackRock. And you know, just watching all these things, I'm not like I don't have access to a lot of these facts and all that, but can you imagine what an organization, and you know, like even just a very good news organization, what a person can, I tell you what, like Gray Zone is very, very good. Just think if Gray Zone started really looking into all of this stuff and started trying to tie these things together and just put up possible scenarios. Well, this could happen, and this could be happen. These people might be involved in doing this. You could come up with a lot of things. You can start writing a lot of dots. You can have some gray dots, you know, that maybe are possibilities, you know, and see, well, what could possibly happen to this? And then as time goes by, you can start maybe connecting the dots, but you have to wait till after the facts happen. But at least you would know in advance, you know, maybe of a different little picture, you know, with where all these dots are at. Just fascinating stuff. Anyhow, it's 42 minutes, and I don't know if I'm going to be doing another video today. I'm going to be going somewhere, but we'll see. So I can try to upload this. It might take 12 hours. It might take, who knows? And I really don't understand why, but that might be what's happening. Everybody, thanks for joining me, and I haven't been getting many comments. Make sure you push the like button, or at least, you know, this, I don't know, if more people, and I'll tell you another thing. I'm looking on YouTube, and I see that there's comments. It says like certain amount of comments, and I'm looking on there, and it says no comments yet. So it's like, well, how come it says I have 2 comments and I have no comments? Very strange stuff. I guess they love me in YouTube anyway. That's why I'm thinking YouTube is heavily involved in whatever the heck is happening on my channel. And I tell you, there's another guy here, an American, and he has a channel, and he was doing some things, and they really got him too on one thing. I don't know, they took him down. He was having like a huge amount of views. It was going viral. Bam, they took him down. So I'll have him sometime, and I'll talk with him. He's a bodybuilder from California, and you know, maybe I'll have him on my if he wants to go. I'm sure he will. He's a decent guy, and I'll have him on, and we'll talk a little bit maybe about YouTube as well. Okay, again, thanks for joining me. Push the like button, maybe make a comment if it's never going to get to me or not, or if it's going to get posted. Probably not. Okay, I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.